What is up, everyone? Doug here with Retro Geek Gaming, and oh my goodness, am I happy! I'm sorry for the delay. I meant to do a video earlier, but we got caught up with stuff, and just family time and all that stuff for right now. But now that I have some free time, I want to talk to you about the Nintendo Switch. Had some time to finally think about everything, because I have to admit that at first I wasn't very impressed. And at first, I'm like, what are they doing? But then as the presentation went on, I kind of saw what they were doing, kind of got the gist of it, and now I want to talk about the Nintendo Switch. So, first thing about the Nintendo Switch is I wasn't really quite sure of the size, but it looks like it's going to be quite small. The way that they held that controller up in their hand made it seem like it's going to be pretty small. And, you know, I also think it's a little bit weird, but I guess I understand because they don't want to force anything down your throat. And I guess that's the reason why they're splitting everything up like this. Because that's probably what they wanted to do to avoid the same mistake as the Wii U. Because, if the Wii U, they kind of forced the gamepad down your throat. And now they're just like, all it comes with is just these Joy-Cons, man. That's it. It just comes with the Joy-Cons. And of course, the Switch tablet. But that's it. That little charging dock or whatever you want to call it, the Joy-Con Bay or whatever it is, that's separate. The Pro Controller is separate. Everything is separate. We're not going to force anything down your throat except for the system and of course the Joy-Cons because that's the main experience. And I'm all right with that. I'm all right with it. For the most part, because again, I get it. They don't want to necessarily be like, well, if you're not comfortable with those, you can always put them on a dock. We got a dock here, and I kind of enjoy that. But when I first started watching it, I'm like, the very first game you're going to show off is a mini game compilation? Really? I thought you didn't want to be anything like the Wii or the Wii U. But the more I thought about 1-2 Switch, the more I started to think of it less as a mini-game compilation and more of a demonstration of how the Joy-Con controller is meant to work. And I think that is why Nintendo hit the nail on the head with starting that as the very first game. Because you want to not do like what you did with the Wii U gamepad. They try to show off ways that it could be used, but they didn't make it very clear on what it was. This time around, you know very clearly what the Joy-Cons are. They are meant to be individual controllers for one player or two players, as well as also working together with the unit, as it showed on the side and all the various play modes and stuff like that. As well as it can also be used for, all kinds of different ways, like what they showed with the very next game, ARMS. Another game that seems more like it's just Wii boxing, but it has a very interesting arena fighting style kind of thing, and I can imagine that there might be some online stuff with that. But yeah, because then they showed the controllers being held sideways, and you kind of control like that, then you move around, and that was sort of the point, was to show, see, you can play differently. You don't have to necessarily hold these suckers like this, you can hold them like this, and get that accurate motion, and all that stuff. And of course the HD rumble that they showed off seems very interesting, and I really kind of like that little that sensor that they have and how it talks about it's recognizing paper, rock, scissors. The reason why that's important is because I can see some applications being used for it. Like I can probably see something along the lines of if it's going to sense distance, for an example. Maybe, like I said, it can probably recognize faces, because if it can recognize hands, it can probably recognize faces. Might be able to use that to log in. Or you might be able to, maybe in some way, have it scan your face. I don't really know. But for some reason, I thought that was interesting. Like, I can see it being used for some games down the road, especially if they want some kind of a, interesting mechanic for it. I don't think it's going to be used all the time. I think there's going to be a lot of games that are going to use the Pro Controller or just the regular configuration of, it sitting in the dock. I don't think we're going to get anything too crazy, but only time will tell. I mean, it's Nintendo. But yes, the presentation went on. We got more and more confirmations that I loved, like Splatoon 2. Thank you for not coming out with a rehash. Thank you. There were no HD remakes. No Splatoon remake. No Super Mario Sunshine HD. You know, they showed off Xenoblade Chronicles 2, which I'm excited about. I mean, the 2 makes it seem like it's going to be more of a sequel to the first Xenoblade Chronicles, which would be interesting to see how they do that. Or it might just simply be, pure and simple, what it is. It just might be like their Final Fantasy, in which now it's Final Fantasy 3, essentially. You know, it's basically just a game that is designed to be in the same universe, but probably not the same storyline. Like, I don't know if Shulk is going to show up in this or not. You know what I'm saying? If it's going to have any relationship back to the Mechon or anything like that that were in the first game. We'll see. Only time will tell on that. It doesn't look like it. It looks like it's kind of a cross between Xenoblade Chronicles X and Xenoblade Chronicles. Like, it looks like it's got a very heavy story involving a sword. And there's also huge monsters to fight. Really interesting game. And of course, you're welcome to go check out any of this stuff. I'm not going to go into a full detail of every single game that they revealed or anything like that. Because really, they didn't show off a lot. They just kind of showed off what we knew was going to come. Like, I figured that they were going to show off Mario. It's a given. And we knew that they were going to show off Zelda. I'm so happy that they're releasing it as a launch title. Because all that worrying about it might be coming out in summer, it might be delayed anymore. Nope, it's got an official date. And unless something comes up between now and then, it will be out in basically a couple months. And I've already gone, and I've already picked up my pre-order. Sorry, I've already placed down money for my pre-order. And I'm going to pick up 1-2 Switch, just because it looks like an interesting little family game that I can play, as well as Zelda for myself. I might also pick up Splatoon and Xenoblade, but I want to get more announcements about that. And supposedly they also showed off a Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which I don't really care. I already have Mario Kart 8. I might pick it up if they give me like more than just a couple of characters and a new map. Like, they have to really convince me, like, no, this is something you want to get. And of course, Nintendo had to come out and say that they're giving more reveals, and I'm like, well, duh. Because let's face it, as far as third party goes, you didn't really get much. You had Suda51 show up, which I was just happy to see him, say that Travis Touchdown will be back. This has gotten me thinking that there's going to be a No More Heroes 3, which I'll be excited to see, because No More Heroes was a great game on the Wii. But that could also mean that Travis Touchdown might show up in Smash, which would also be cool. So it's really going to depend upon what Suda means by we're going to see Travis Touchdown come back. So that will be interesting for that. Sorry. Oh, man. And of course, Nintendo is doing the smart thing. They basically focused on games that are only coming out within that window. Like, if you notice, they showed off, here's Super Mario Odyssey. We're going to show it off. We're going to give you a little taste of it. But it's coming in, like, the holiday. You don't have to worry about it right now. But what's coming out when the system comes out? Oh, ARM and Zelda and, all, like, they gave you some launch windows, but they didn't really talk about third-party developers. And I think that's because Nintendo's playing it smart with this. See, rather than take up a whole 2 or 3 hour presentation of, we got all these games coming, now they can release the third-party developers. And the third-party developers can come out and say, yeah, this game's coming out, this game's coming out, this game's coming out. You know what I mean? And when E3 comes around, they can finally bring out some of the big dogs like Retro and Platinum Games and what they're working on. And whether or not Sega's bringing anything to the table. You know what I mean? Like, they can use E3 as their big platform, because by that time, their system has come out. Breath of the Wild would have had its day. The games that came out to sort of, demonstrate what the Switch is about is out. And now that it's gotten that, oh, by the way, this, and this, and this. I mean, sure, I was a little bit disappointed that there wasn't a Luigi's Mansion 3 shown off. I was a little bit disappointed there wasn't a Metroid. But that doesn't mean that they're not in the works. Just like what we were talking about, I believe the rumblings that there was going to be a Bayonetta 3. Bayonetta 3 wasn't announced, but that doesn't mean that it's not in development. Again, they might be waiting more towards E3. Because what they probably wanted to do was, other than Legend of Zelda and, Skyrim, they pretty much kept it friendly. They kept it at right about an hour. They didn't make anything too extravagant. They focused on showing off what the console is capable of. I kind of would have preferred, this is just me, and of course, confirmation of this has probably come out by now. I haven't really been keeping up with the blogs and the forums and stuff like that to make sure. So I might have to go back in and check. But I would have liked more confirmation as to what exactly the system is, And what I mean by that is, like, I recorded the video right before that, wouldn't it be great if I didn't even know, it's like, wouldn't it be great if it had built-in LAN? I didn't even know there was a LAN adapter until, like, hours before they revealed it. I'm like, really? There's a LAN adapter? Okay, well, at least I can use the same one for my Wii and Wii U, so it's okay, So, yeah, but that's a good example of what I'm talking about. As far as, like, rather than having to wait from potentially somebody else to hear it, it would have been nice if Nintendo said, oh, by the way, yes, it is multi-touch, yes, it is 720, or it's going to be 1080 when it's docked, or, it's able to do, like, it's able to do 60 frames per second, get more confirmation as to what exactly it is. And don't get me wrong, you showed off Mario, which looked really good, I guess, for the Switch. It kind of looked a little off at first to have him in a real-life city, because of how short, apparently, he is. And, you showed off Breath of the Wild, which is already on the Wii U, or is going to come out for the Wii U. And, you showed off Skyrim. But other than those few games, you didn't really show off anything that, like, really shows off the technology of the system. So that's why I think they're saving that for E3. Like, E3 is going to be like, oh, by the way, all these big, massive third-party games are coming, by the way, and they look gorgeous and this, that, and the other, to where you can really get a sense of how powerful the system really is. But I think that it was a good reveal. I didn't like the translator. One of the translators that came up, he sounded like he was, like, 17 and really bored. Because a lot of the people, they would be speaking in Japanese, and he would, like, talk every few seconds, and it's just like, I know they're saying more than what he's translating. I mean, I'm sorry, I've seen Bill Trennan translate for Mr. Miyamoto, and yeah, he's saying a lot more than that, but I mean, whatever. Especially when Suda51 was out. If you go back, you watch that part, you'll see what I mean. He's out there talking about this, that, and the other, and he just doesn't seem like he's really interested in what's going on. At least the translator. But that's my only gripe about it, is I really wish that they probably would have fired that translator, because that guy did a horrible job. Otherwise, I think that they did a pretty good job. They saved Breath of the Wild for last. They came out with a release date. They came out with a release date for a system, a reasonable price. I was expecting $249 because that's what everybody kept saying. But $299 is still reasonable, especially when you look at people who went out and they spent $500 on an Xbox One. Oh, I'm sorry. Or they spent $400 on a PS4. So to me, $300 is still, the cheaper option from that. And the fact that now the Xbox One is basically like $350 now, or might have gone down lower, means that they're still competing right around the same price range as the Xbox One and PS4. So I'm okay with $300. I just wish it didn't have all the extra accessories, but again, that makes it coming down to you. And I love that little slide thing. I don't even know why I like that little slide thing with the holder. Because every time I look at it, I'm thinking, man, they're just repeating the Wii with this. But there's something cool about it. The fact that it's rounded and kind of modern looking, like it just can fit nicely in your hands and all that stuff. It just looks like it's going to be really nice. And technically, you are getting two controllers out of it that way if you look at it like that. But that's just my 2 cents, guys. I know I'm babbling on and on and on. I'm looking forward to more announcements, confirmation as to how exactly the touchscreen works, what the resolution is. Even though that doesn't really matter, because like I said, I've already got mine pre-ordered. I'm looking forward to playing Breath of the Wild. It would be nice just to know exactly what we're getting into. And looking forward to more Nintendo announcements from games, third-party developers and as well as second-party, as well as E3, where I'm sure they're going to drop a lot of huge bombs. But make sure you guys put your thoughts in the comments below about what you think about the Switch reveal, as well as what games you wish they would have shown off or you think that they will show off. I'm still holding out, of course, for Metroid. I've already talked about that, as well as Luigi's Mansion and a lot of other games that, we'll talk about down the road. But I appreciate you guys watching. As always, have a good one. See you next time.